We're now going to discuss the address book activity from the Enhanced Address Book app. Now, as we present this class over the next several videos, we'll be focusing on the new features of the address book activity and skipping those that are identical to the address book activity from back in lesson 10. Now, in this first video on the addressbook.java source code file, we're going to take a look at some of the new import declarations and fields of the address book class. So you can see here at lines 9 and 10, we have a couple of imports from the org.json or JSON package. We'll be using JavaScript object notation or JSON to transmit the data of a contact from one device to another. In the address book class, we'll be receiving a JSON object and then deserializing it from its string format into an object from which we can then pull the data that needs to be placed into the database for the address book app. We also see here that we've got two different classes we'll be using. JSON exceptions occur when you run into problems serializing or deserializing a JSON object. And then separately we have the JSON object class, which we'll be using to deserialize the JSON string that we receive and then extract the information for the contact, which we will then place into the database using the database connector class, which is identical to the one that we presented back in lesson 10. Now at lines 13 through 15 we have several other new import declarations from the Android.Bluetooth package. The Bluetooth adapter class will be used to get information about the device's Bluetooth adapter, such as whether or not that adapter is currently enabled, and that will enable us to check whether or not we can receive information from another device. It will also be our indication as to whether or not we need to prompt the user to enable Bluetooth on the device in the first place. We also have a couple of other classes from the Android.Bluetooth package. The Bluetooth server socket class will be used to accept connections from another Bluetooth enabled device running our enhanced address book app. And once we have a connection, we will communicate back and forth through the Bluetooth socket that we receive. And just as with sockets in standard TCP/IP networking, a Bluetooth socket has associated with it an input stream and an output stream that we can use to receive data and send data respectively. Now, as we move down through the rest of the import declarations that we see here, there's nothing new in these other import declarations, so I'm going to skip over those and jump into the fields of class address book. Now, there's a couple of new features in the fields that we have here, starting with lines 39 through 43, where we have a static final UUID, which we create from a string, and we'll talk about that in a moment, and we have a static final string called name as well. And these two items are going to be used to help us register the address book activity to be able to be discovered by the enhanced address book app running on another device, so that the other device can connect to the address book activity effectively and send over a contact for storage in the receiving device's database for this app. So the UUID is a universally unique identifier, and it turns out there's many different UUID or GUID, globally unique identifier generators on the web. We use the one here at shown in the comment at line 38. And basically what this does, what we use this for, I should say, is to create a unique ID that is just for the enhanced address book app. And when a sending device is paired up with a receiving device running the enhanced address book app, we want to make sure that a connection is made only if the correct app is running on the device and has made itself discoverable. So the UUID, the unique identifier, is used as part of that matching process, if you will. And the name that we declared here at line 43 is going to be paired up with that UUID and registered on the receiving device's so-called Service Discovery Protocol Server, or SDP server. And that is going to basically maintain a map of keys and values where the keys are names that various apps specify and the values are unique identifiers that can be used for lookups by remote devices. When a remote device looks up my app on a receiving device, what it's going to do is, if it finds that app mapped into key value pair storage, the SDP server is going to return back the communications channel on which the two devices will then be able to communicate. Now, we also have a couple of other fields in this class that we've added. For example, at lines 46 and 47, we have a couple of static final integer constants that we'll use when launching activities that will be able to enable Bluetooth on the device if the user gives permission, and then separately to be able to make the device discoverable if the user gives permission. So what we're going to do is launch built-in activities from Android that can enable Bluetooth or make a device discoverable. These Android activities will automatically prompt the user to ask for permission, and if the user gives permission, then we can enable Bluetooth programmatically or make the device discoverable as well. And if they don't allow those things to happen, then obviously our app is not capable of being discoverable and sending information back and forth between the app running on multiple devices. And then finally, we also have a couple of other new instance variables here, lines 50 and 51, the Bluetooth adapter variable that we'll use for interacting with the device's Bluetooth adapter programmatically, and a Boolean that we use to determine whether or not the user of the app allowed Bluetooth to be enabled. And if the answer to that is no, we'll set that to false and then prevent the app from asking the user to do that over and over again.